Hey guys, we are going to be starting a new unit, Equations and Inequalities. I'm going to get started with lesson 1A today, which is the quadratic formula. So I want you to pause the video and try the warm-up on your own. Okay, so part 1, it says solve the equation and the equation is given to you with a method of factoring. So first of all, it is a quadratic, right? So how do you solve quadratics? By setting them equal to each other, equal to 0. So I'm going to add 6 on both sides and I get x squared minus 5x plus 6, which is equal to 0. Now, factoring rule number 1. Always look for your GCF. Is there a GCF here? No. Then identify the structure. There are 3 terms and your leading coefficient is 1. So what do? You do a factoring technique called AM method. So I'm going to do, give me 2 numbers that add to -5 and multiply to 6. So they are -2 and -3. Once you get the 2 factors, always check, can either of them be factored further? They cannot. Set them equal to 0 and you get what? Add 2 on both sides, you get x equals 2, and add 3 on both sides, you get x equals 2 and 3. So the 2 zeros or solutions we can say are 2 and 3. What it means on a graph is, if I was to graph this quadratic, at 2 and 3 my parabola will cross the x-axis. So you can even call them the x-intercepts. Any of those words are right. Okay, so now we're going to solve the same question using the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula is given to you, but eventually you have to have it memorized because it will not be given to you on a test. So you must know that. So what are your A, B, and C? Anytime you want to work with the quadratic formula, your equation must be set equal to 0. If it's not set equal to 0, you cannot pick your A, B, C. I like to write them on the side. So I'm going to write my A is the leading coefficient, so or the coefficient of x squared. A is 1, B is coefficient of x, -5, and C is 6. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just substitute. In the first step, I like to just substitute. I don't simplify it so that I know what's going where. So it's going to be -5 square minus 4 times my A is 1 and my C is 6. If you had not set it equal to 0, do you see? You would have picked C to be -6 and that would have given you a wrong answer. So you want to make sure that whenever you're doing quadratic formula, it's always set it equal to 0. All the terms are on one side. Over 2 times 1. Right? Now you can do this part. This is called the radicand. You can simplify that. You can do it in your head or use the calculator. So -5 is just 5 plus and minus. -5 squared is 25 and 4 times 1 times 6 is 24. 25 minus 24 is just 1 over 2. I'm going to take it here. I'm going to draw a line and I'm going to work here. X is equal to 5 plus and minus. What's square root of 1? 1 over 2. What does this plus and minus means? You can't leave it here. You have to simplify it all the way through, especially because these all numbers, if you look at 5, 1, and 2 are all integers. So I can rewrite it as 5 minus 1 over 2. That's what the plus and minus means. Using the same numbers, but writing once with the minus and once with the plus. So what's 5 minus 1 over 2? So first you do the numerator. Simplify the numerator, which is 4. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 5 plus 1 is 6. 6 divided by 2 is 3. No matter which method you picked, you got the same solution. Here by factoring, and in the second part, we did it by using the quadratic formula. Some questions you can't factor, and that is when you have to use the quadratic formula. So I'm going to try do 2 more questions here. I'm going to do the first one and I want to do the second one. So again, the first one is already set equal to 0. So I'm going to just substitute into my quadratic. So it's going to be x equals negative. I said my first step I always is substitute. What's my b square? You can choose to write here A is 1, B on top, and C like that, or on the side, whatever feels comfortable to you. So it's going to be 2 square minus 4 times 1 times negative 5, right? All over 2 times 1. I'm going to switch colors, and now I'm going to simplify it. It's negative 2 plus and minus. What goes under the radical? 2 square is 4, and negative 4 times negative 5 is positive 20. So this would be rad 24 over 2, right? Now 24 is a non-perfect square. I'm going to actually do this on the side here. How do you simplify radicals? You want to factor them, and one of the factors must be a perfect square. Give me the largest perfect square that goes into 24, which is 4. I'm just going to change color. So it's 4 times 6. So what's square root of 4? Square root of 4 is just 2. So rad 24 can be simplified to 2 rad 6. So I am going to rewrite this here. Negative 2 over 2 plus and minus 2 rad 6 over 2. Simplify that. The negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1, and the 2's cancel out. Remember, you cannot cancel with the radical. Okay, the radical part. You cannot cancel the 6 with 2. Okay, you cannot do that. You can only divide the integers in front of it. So 2 divided by 2 is just 1. So it's 1 rad 6. So that is your final answer. You can choose to write it like, if you want to separate it. I don't see the need to writing it, but those are your 2 answers or 2 solutions. Okay, I'm okay with you writing it like this. So I'm going to do number 2. Again, if you look at number 2, I'm going to zoom in. If you look at number 2, it's not set equal to 0. So anytime you use the quadratic formula, you must set it equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract 12x on both sides. So I get what? X squared minus 12x plus 48 is equal to 0. Now you substitute into your quadratic formula. It's going to be negative 12 plus and minus your b. Again, if you want to write that, I should have written that here. A is 1, b is negative 12, and c is what? 48, right? Please make sure equations in standard form. I said that, so don't make those silly mistakes. And I'm just going to go back to my red. It's going to be 12 square minus, it's negative 12 actually, negative 12 square minus 4 times 1 times 48, right? So now all over 2 times 1. So now you do the math and see, pause the video and see if you get it and what did you get. So let's change the color. X is equal to 12 plus and minus, what did you get under the radical? Negative 12 squared. Remember, whenever we square a negative number, it's always going to be positive. Is 144. So you can write that 144 minus 48 times 4 is 196, right? So what's 144 minus 196? 2 times 1 is 2. I'll switch colors. X is equal to 12 plus and minus. I got negative 48 all over 2. Okay, let's simplify that negative 48 here. Negative 48. So now, whenever you have a negative under the radical, remember, we'll separate it. And now, what's the largest perfect square that goes into 48? It's 16 and 3. You can have separate radicals, or you can put all that under one radical. Square root of negative 1 has to do with I. Square root of 16 is 4. And 3 is a non-perfect one, so it's going to go under the radical. So I can replace this for negative 48, right? So let's go here. It's going to be x equals, and I'm going to write it as separate fractions, plus and minus 4i rad 3 over 2. So let's simplify it. What do I get? X equals 12 divided by 2 is 6, plus and minus 2 goes into 4, 2 times I read 3. So that is your final answer. Okay, be careful. Remember, whenever you have a -1, there's going to be some kind of I involved. Those are complex roots. What that means is if you were to put that in the calculator and look at the graph of this, I'm just sketching it, will never touch the x-axis. It will not touch the x-axis. That is a signal saying that you have complex roots. Okay, so I want you to now finish the remaining questions for homework. Good luck.